Hi there, Andrew Bosserman here, former IRS agent and current tax attorney and founder of Boss Tax Law. So, someone gets a notice from the IRS, maybe you, and it could be a proposed assessment, maybe it's an audit adjustment, and you might look at it and say, this is clearly wrong. The IRS made a mistake. This should be easy to fix, right? So, why are your fees so high? I get it. I really do. When you know you're right and the IRS is wrong, it feels like the resolution should be quick and inexpensive, and you shouldn't have to pay for the big government making a mistake. But in today's video, I want to explain why being right doesn't necessarily make the work any less complex, time-consuming, or valuable. And I think some analogies from other professions will help make this crystal clear. So here's the main thing. My fees aren't based on whether you're right or wrong. They're based on the value I deliver and the outcome I achieve for you. With clients, I generally don't charge by the hour. Instead, I work on a flat fee or contingency basis, or sometimes a hybrid of those two approaches. But what that means is that I'm not padding hours or incentivized to drag things out. My fees are tied to solving your problem and the value of that situation to you. So think about it this way. When the IRS sends you a notice saying you owe $500,000, they don't include a checkbox that says, just kidding, if they made a mistake. There's also no magic button I can press that says, clear IRS error, case dismissed, automatically wipe it away. Whether the IRS is 100% wrong or it's genuinely a gray area of tax law, achieving the right outcome requires many things. A comprehensive review of your documentation and tax records, deep research of applicable tax law and regulations, strategic analysis of the IRS's position and where their analysis is wrong, expertly drafted written responses with legal citations, conferences with IRS agents, appeals officers, or IRS attorneys, skilled negotiation with those people to reach a final resolution, and managing what can turn into years of back and forth work with the IRS. So the IRS being wrong doesn't make getting to the right outcome any easier. In fact, sometimes proving the IRS is wrong takes more expertise and strategy than cases where there's legitimate ambiguity we can negotiate around and argue about. So my fee reflects the value of making that $500,000 problem disappear, not how many hours it takes me to do it. So let me give you an analogy that I think really helps explain this point. So imagine you're accused of a crime you didn't commit. You're completely innocent. You have an alibi. Maybe there's even video evidence showing you were somewhere else when the crime occurred. So an open and shut case. You hire a criminal defense attorney and they quote you their fee. Would you say something like, wait, but I'm innocent, so shouldn't you charge me less? This should be really easy. Of course not. Because you understand that the criminal defense attorney's value isn't in billing hours. It's in achieving the outcome you need, being exonerated of the charges. Whether they take a plea deal in one meeting or fight through a full trial on your behalf, you're paying for their expertise in navigating the criminal justice system, things like their ability to protect your rights, their skill in presenting your case effectively, and ultimately the end result, staying out of jail and clearing your name. Your innocence doesn't reduce that value. In fact, an innocent person might need more legal expertise to overcome wrongful accusations than someone who's guilty and just takes a plea deal. So the attorney's value isn't in the outcome being correct. It's in their ability to achieve that outcome by navigating a complex system on your behalf. And the same is true in tax controversy. If you're not dealing with a criminal matter, jail isn't on the line, but the IRS doesn't just back down because you're right and don't owe the money. My value is in making the problems go away, regardless of how obvious the error seems to you. So here's another analogy. Let's say a hurricane comes through your area and damages your home. You did everything right as a homeowner. You maintained your property, you had proper insurance, you even reinforced your roof a few years ago. But nature doesn't care about any of that. Your house still got damaged during the hurricane. Now, you call a contractor to repair the damage. Would you say something like, wait, you should charge me less because this wasn't my fault. I took care of my home. I did everything I could. But a tree falling on my roof, I wasn't responsible for that. I didn't do anything wrong. So the repair should be cheaper. That would be kind of ridiculous, right? The contractor doesn't charge based on whose fault the damage was. They charge based on the extent of the damage, the materials needed, labor hours required, the complexity of the repair, how quickly you want it done, and their expertise and experience. So regardless of whether the damage came from the hurricane, poor maintenance, or faulty construction, doesn't change what it takes to fix the problem. The contractor still has to assess the damage, source the proper materials, coordinate subcontractors, pull permits, and do the actual work of fixing your roof. And tax controversy works the same way. Whether the IRS error happened because of their mistake, a computer glitch, or an overzealous IRS agent, the work required to fix it is what determines the fee. In my experience, sometimes the most innocent taxpayers have the most complex cases because they're dealing with sophisticated business structures, multi-state issues, or IRS agents who've dug in their heels on erroneous positions. So, what actually determines my fee in a tax controversy case, and how do I think about it? So let's break it down. One, we have the value of the outcome. If you're facing a $500,000 assessment, resolving that is worth significantly more to you than $10,000 issue. My fee reflects the value I'm delivering, not just how long it takes. Two, complexity and risk. Some IRS errors involve straightforward issues. Others involve complex legal interpretations, conflicting case law, or novel fact patterns that haven't come before a court before. Even when the IRS is wrong, figuring out exactly why they're wrong and the best strategy to resolve it takes significant legal expertise. Higher stakes and more complex issues command higher fees because the value of getting it right is that much greater and important. Three, my expertise and track record. I've spent years working for the IRS, learning tax law, IRS procedures, and controversy resolution strategies. I know which arguments work, the IRS attorneys and agents I've worked with that are reasonable, and how to navigate each level of appeals and the judicial system. So you're paying for my knowledge and expertise, essentially what I know, not just what I do. Four, the leverage I bring. So my reputation, relationships I have, and knowledge within the IRS of their people, but also processes and systems can oftentimes open doors that you can't open yourself. So that access and knowledge has value regardless of whether a case takes me 5 hours or 50 hours or 500 hours. Fourth, finality and certainty. You're not just paying to be told you're right. You're paying for the IRS to agree you're right, sign off on it, and close the case. That's what actually solves your problem. So when you hire me as a tax attorney, what you're actually paying for is results, not hours. Because I don't charge hourly, I'm completely focused on achieving the best outcome for you in the most efficient way possible. If I can resolve your case with one perfectly crafted letter instead of months of back and forth, you still get the full value and I still get paid fairly for delivering that result. Two, strategic expertise. So I know which battles to fight, which arguments resonate with IRS personnel, and how to position your case in the best light. So that strategic insight is what gets cases resolved favorably. Three, my reputation and relationships. So I'm continuing working on developing good relationships with IRS agents, appeals officers, and IRS attorneys that I come across with. They know that I do quality work and that I know the law and present good, well-prepared cases. So that credibility gets you taken seriously from day one. Four, risk mitigation. So even in cases where you're clearly right, there's still risk in how you present your case. So a poorly drafted response can turn a winning case into a losing one or drag it out for years. But I'm managing that risk for you. 5, peace of mind. You're not laying awake at night wondering if you missed a critical deadline or filed the wrong form or am even doing the right thing. I'm handling all that stress for you and taking the work of dealing with the IRS off your hands. And finally, the outcome itself. Ultimately, you're paying for making a 6-figure IRS problem disappear. That's the value I deliver, whether it takes me 10 hours or 100. So I understand the frustration. When you know you're right and the IRS is wrong, it feels unfair that you have to pay a tax attorney to prove it. And I get that. But here's the reality. The IRS is a massive institution with significant power and resources. They can freeze your bank accounts, file liens, garnish wages, and make your financial life incredibly difficult, even when they're clearly wrong. Fighting back effectively requires someone who knows the system, knows the law, and knows how to advocate for you. That expertise delivers tremendous value regardless of whether the IRS's initial position was correct. Think of it this way. You're not paying me to tell the IRS they're wrong. You're paying me to make the problem go away, to get them to agree you're right, close the case, and restore your peace of mind. That's what ultimately has value to you. So the next time you're tempted to think, this should be cheaper because I'm right, remember the criminal defense attorney and the contractor. Being right doesn't eliminate the need for expertise, and being innocent doesn't make the case any easier. And not being at fault doesn't make the repair less valuable. What matters is the value of the outcome. And in the case of my work as a tax controversy attorney, it's getting the IRS to back down, close the case, and leave you alone. So if you're facing a IRS controversy and you want someone who will fight for the right result, whether you're clearly right or somewhere in the gray area, feel free to reach out to me. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I post new content about tax controversy, IRS disputes, and tax law regularly. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.